And talking about sort of advanced and I guess I can't really call it newer anymore, but the more modern technologies, Kubernetes, of course, is finally, I think, starting to see greater traction within the realm of the traditional enterprise. Still,
Mhm.
probably not as much as I think some of us expected. But as that happens, we're seeing continued increased focus on cost. As one of the companies that I have done some work with, actually, I guess I haven't really technically worked with them, but that I've been following fairly closely is a company called Perfect Scale. They're pretty focused on this because as organizations start going down this road, they start recognizing that you've got
Mhm.
these challenges of managing performance and cost. And to that end, IBM has gone out and, as they've been doing a lot of lately, made another acquisition, this time of a company called KubeCost. And I found it interesting, mostly because I think I'm not sure. IBM also acquired Aptio a while back, and so I guess they're rolling this into as part of that group. I'm not sure, but I feel like IBM hasn't quite figured out their FinOps story yet. So I found this purchase an interesting one. So what was your take on it?
Yeah. So I've been following FinOps a long time. I think IBM has been making some interesting acquisitions, and I agree that it feels not fully baked from an IBM perspective, but I would say that IBM has been picking up market leaders in specific spaces along the way, including Turbonomic, Aptio with its cloudability offering, now having Kubernetes capabilities with KubeCost. They have their own internal IBM Concert capability, which also tracks software and cloud activity. And it seems like, and then they have Instana as well, their observability platform. So they have all these pieces of the puzzle where you can tell if you put them all together, you have this interesting cloud orchestration suite where you can look at all the activity and look at all the cost and figure out how to optimize everything. And IBM is basically your lens into multi-cloud. All the pieces of the puzzle are there. And whether they can put it together, that's going to be the interesting question. I would say that I think it's promising that they basically kept most of the Aptio team together, and the Aptio team has obviously been very focused on this multi-cloud challenge for a long time. So I think that, like most IBM acquisitions, the real challenge here is, can you keep the original team on board, and can you let them continue to be entrepreneurial? When IBM does that, like they did with Red Hat, things tend to work out well. When IBM kind of tries to take things over, like they kind of did with Cognos and SPSS and some of these acquisitions from a decade ago, we've seen what happens to those acquisitions over time.
I think the challenge I have is Red Hat is the big exception when it comes to IBM's acquisition track record. And I agree, Red Hat. I mean, Red Hat is to a certain degree the tail wagging the dog now. But I think I think with maybe from fear of some of the past blunders, they have taken a more hands-off approach with a lot of their acquisitions and leaving them mostly intact. But I think the challenge with that is exactly what you were saying at the beginning. Is like I mean, yeah, I look at the observability space as an example, and they have like four different companies that do pieces of it, and they
Mhm.
haven't really coalesced it into a unified platform, story, message, any of it. It's just like these building blocks. And going back to the DIY, it's sort of up to you to put these together. And so then what's the advantage of having it all under one brand? And that I'm sort of concerned here from a FinOps perspective of the same thing. So, I'm a big fan. I mean, here's what I'm gratified by. I believe that the companies that are out there and trying to look at cloud cost universally, I think are missing the boat, right? Kubernetes has very distinct set of characteristics that require a whole different way of looking at cost management. And I think you have to look at performance, which I don't think KubeCost does as good of a job as they should. But you have to be able to look at the balance between performance and cost around the two. And so I'm gratified that they're recognizing that having a specific play around Kubernetes is important. But the challenge with that is Kubernetes is this, at least from a traditional enterprise perspective, a small little sliver, which means I have to put it together as part of this bigger picture. And I mean, if anyone should be able to help me do that, it would be an IBM, and I don't see them doing it. So
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, but I think this also means that there are a few other Kubernetes cost specialists that are out there. There are obviously features in the big picture, not full-fledged platform. So they've either got to figure out the rest of Cloud FinOps or they've got to get acquired. I think being acquired is probably more likely. And honestly, there are several other FinOps companies that could probably use a Kubernetes specific solution to help with the extremely variable and time sensitive issues that are associated with assigning anything to Kubernetes, where you could choose different resources at any time and have all sorts of problems. I'm here at NetApp, and we'll see what NetApp ends up doing from a Kubernetes perspective, whether they're happy with the current observability capabilities or whether they want to go deeper into cost. But we're seeing that VMware, the market leader in the FinOps space, obviously having its challenges. Let's just put it that way. We know all parts of VMware either being tossed off or dealing with partner issues or having to explain for whatever Broadcom is doing to them, and that doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. So between IBM buying up stuff and VMware falling apart, this market is very much in flux right now.